Welcome back, friends. In the last couple of series of in C programming language, we have learned functions. Now here, this is the continuous series of that particular function. In the last couple of videos, we are broadly discussed about predefined functions. We have discussed about header files. We have discussed about preprocessor directives. We have also discussed about preprocessor, and we saw the entire execution of a C programming file starting from preprocessing to converting that one into machine code, right? All these things we have broadly covered. And during that session, we have also tried to answer a few questions like whether the hash include can only contain .h file or any other file, whether the user can able to create his or her own header files or not. We have covered that one quite thoroughly. In case you missed that video, please get back to those videos and come back so that we can start with the new one. Now in this lecture series, today we will be concentrating on user defined function. We will be concentrating on user defined functions, right? The first question definitely coming to your mind is why user defined functions are required and what are those? The answers are very simple. If the user got a requirement, suppose I am creating a program. In my program, I have a requirement. What kind of requirement? Suppose I got a requirement for calculating a factorial of a particular number. Suppose I am writing a program, bigger program. Here in this program, line number 2, at line number 10, at line number 20. At all these line numbers, I want the factorial program should be executed here. I want the factorial to be calculated here. I want the factorial to be calculated here, and I want the factorial to be calculated here. And the problem is the factorial program or the factorial function is not there in my header, in the predefined header files. Right, and we have two options now. Either we can write the entire code at line number 2, entire code at line number 10, entire code at line number 20. That will do. Or else what we can do, we can write a separate function and we can call it at line number 2, we can call it at line number 10 and same as line number 20. So this is what called as a function. I think this part we have already discussed. The only difference is, since this particular function is not there in the C library and we require this function, we have to create that function. So whenever the user creates any function for his or her own requirement in the programming, that particular function is called as a user defined function. I think you got a clarity on what exactly user defined function is. So we can write the definition, or we can write something about user defined function. The function created by the user for his or her programming requirement is called as user defined function. You can also add one more point. That point is, this particular function is not available in the C library. We have to create this function, and this function is called as user defined function, right? While creating a user defined function, the user has to be very keen about few things. Let us understand what are the different things, what are the different sections of a function, and while creating a function, what should I take care of? If I can understand all these three sections, then happily I can say I can create any type of function. So before getting into type of the function, let us understand what are the different segments, or sometimes some people are called these as sections of a particular function. It could be a user defined function, or it could be a header predefined function, right? So we'll talk about components of a function, or you can say it has different names. You can say component of a function, or we can say it's a section of a function, all the different section of a, or parts of a function, whatever you say. Every function has maximum to maximum these three sections. I said maximum. Some part might be optional with some condition. We'll look into that, don't worry. First section is declaration. Second section is obviously, see, as I repeat, I'm very bad at writing spellings. First thing is declaration. Second thing what we need is a definition. Third thing what we need is to understand is calling of the function, right? So these are three sections of any function. You go to any programming language, all these three sections are maximum, these three sections are there for any function. We'll understand one by one thoroughly. We'll discuss one by one very thoroughly, right? We'll start with declaration. Declaration is sometimes called as prototype. You can call declaration, you can call prototype. Don't forget, we are talking about user defined function, prototype, right? Every function should have a prototype, right? This is recommended. There are few functions for which we don't require prototype. We'll understand that condition bit later. But let's start with each function, whether it is a predefined function or user defined function, each function should have a prototype. Don't worry, we are just going into that prototype or function declaration, right? Now the next question is, what function declaration will contain and why we are writing declaration? These two questions are very, very vital. Function declaration contains, let us see what it contains. Function declaration, what it contains, let's see. It can contain four things. One is return type, one is your function name, third one is your argument, and of course the fourth one, which is only restricted to function declaration, is semicolon. These are four different things that every function declaration will contain. The next question, why function declaration is required? See, function declaration is basically required for the compiler. If you don't declare a function declaration, compiler could not able to understand what this function is and where this function came out. Make sure you understand this point. Right? Why it is created? Because to inform the compiler about the function name, not only the function name, argument type that function will take, and the return type. This is only to inform the compiler. If you don't inform the compiler, you cannot able to execute that particular function, or you cannot do anything with this function. Make sure you understand this point, right? Now let us see each and every section of this one very thoroughly. We'll understand what exactly return type is, we'll understand what exactly arguments are, and we'll understand all these four sections of prototyping or declaration very thoroughly, right? Let us start. Remember one thing a function declaration doesn't contain. Remember, function declaration doesn't have a function body. That means it doesn't say what your function can do. Remember this point. What it can say, what your function should look like. It will say all about that. Now we'll understand these 4 points first, function name, these 3 points first, function name, argument type, and return. Then we'll come back to all these points. Don't worry. We'll talk about all those 4 points. Let us see what exactly return type is and where it should be written or something like that. So if we'll take the example of a function declaration, don't worry, I'll definitely discuss with you where the function declaration should be written and where it is not required. We'll discuss that part very thoroughly, don't worry. Let us understand what they are and what they looks like. Suppose I want to declare a function named as anything, or let us generalize the syntax. The syntax of any function declaration will be looking like this. The first, you should have to write a return type. Return type is mandate. We'll see where it is mandate and where it is not mandate. Return type followed by the function name, then type 1, argument 1, followed by anything, any number of arguments followed by a semicolon. See what we have done here. As per the thing, the first we have written the return type, second the function name, third one is are the arguments, and the fourth one is the semicolon. And this particular one is called as function declaration or function prototype, right? Or you can say this is a function header. You can say, but function header is basically, we call that one at the time of function definition. Not here exactly. Not here exactly. Right? So this is the syntax of declaration of function. We'll understand each of this part very thoroughly. We'll start with this return type. Now, as the name suggests, what exactly return type is, what it says, it specifies what your function going to return. Remember, it specifies the return type of your function. Right? Number two. Yes, in case your function, I repeat, in case your function does not return anything, you can write in case your function does not return anything. Now, you should use that word void in place of return type. Void should be written in place of this return type. Now, number two. Number three, you should remember, maximum one value can be returned from a function. This is not only for C, C++, but also for Java. But only one programming language in the world which has more than one return value from a function. That particular programming language is no other than Python. So Python has a different sets of rules and regulation. We are not following that. So for C programming language, what we are concluding, maximum one value can be returned from a function. Make sure you understand this point. This is very, very vital. Number four, the default return type. You can say, suppose what I have done, I have not written anything. If I am not written anything, will it be treated as void? No. Make sure you understand this point. Default return type in C programming language, this is valid in C programming language only. Return type is always int. It is always int. Remember, please do remember this point. This is again a very good question for your interview room. Can you please tell what is the default return type in C programming language? Immediately your answer should be int. If you can recall your printf statement, if you can recall your scanf statement, printf, scanf, all these functions, printf, scanf, all these functions returns int. If you can recall, if I store, suppose I am storing s equals to printf, within bracket I am writing Odisha. Now what will happen? What will be the value of s now? The value of s will be now 3 plus 2, 5. So what it will return? It will return the total counting number of words into s. So this is what the return is. Return means your function will return a value to the function where it is called. Means the calling function always provide a value to the called function. We'll look into that. So these are few points you should understand about a return type. Return types are mandate. Every function has a return type. The return type could be integer, could be float, could be double, could be long int, anything it could be. If you are writing something like that, that means the function you are going to create can return an int value or float value or double value or long value. In case you have written int and float both at the same time, remember you are making a mistake, right? And there might be chance at some programming requirement, I don't want to return anything from my function. In that scenario, this return type should be written as void. Keep this in mind, right? And only one value can be returned from any function. Only maximum one value, not more than that. Remember, our default return type is integer. So these are few points about your return type. Then we'll talk about function name. Don't worry, once we complete this, we'll go for example, then we'll discuss everything else. We'll talk about function name. What exactly function name is? As you know, this is the very basics. Function name, variable name, maybe your file name, all these names are called as identifier. All these names called as identifier. Now function name should be a valid identifier. You have to follow all the rules and regulations of an identifier. I think you know all this. Let me quickly call out this one. Maximum length should not exceed 32. Characters allowed are A to Z, capital A to Z, and 0 to 9. Only available special character is underscore. And remember, the first character of an identifier cannot be a digit. So these are few rules for creating identifier. I hope you all know this, right? Okay. It should be a valid identifier, right? And the most important point that I'm going to write, the name of the function should not be same. At the same scope or same visibility, but it can be same in different visibility. Suppose I am writing two different programs. This is one program and this is one program. I am creating a function f1 here. Happily, I can create a function f1 here. But if I include this file here, now they become same scope. I can't do that. So within same scope, I cannot create two functions having same name. This is invalid. But in different scope, I can happily create function with same name. Please make sure you understand this point. So function name, if some interviewer will ask you a question, can the function name can the function name be same? Your answer is, you know how to answer it. Answer is yes, it can be different if they are in two different scopes. They are not calling each other, they are not in a single scope. Then happily you can say we can have duplicate function names also in C programming language. So that's all about the function name, right? Okay. Next one, and the important one, is a parameter, or you can say the argument. The arguments also we can call this as parameter, and these are the building blocks of programming language, right? What exactly parameter is? Parameter says, since the first one says return type, second one says function name, parameter says what will be the value this particular function will accept, so that we can process the things. I repeat, the argument confirms how many number of value your function can take and what are the types of those functions. Remember this point. So what are parameters? It confirms the types and number of arguments that your user defined function can accept from the user, or maybe from the function where it is called. Either way, you can write in both the way. Now these parameters, these are called as parameter. Remember this point. These are called as parameter. Sometimes we are calling this as formal parameter. Formal parameter. Remember this point, right? And what we can do, we can have more than one per. Suppose I have to create a function for adding three numbers. So my declaration will be, since I want the value to be returned as int, I am writing something like this: int, comma int, comma int, right, with the semicolon. Now what it justifies? The return type of the function will be integer. The name of the function would be add. Remaining three, there are three arguments. The first argument should be integer, second argument should be integer, third argument should be integer. You have to write in this particular pattern. What you cannot do, you cannot write like A, comma B, comma C. This is a wrong way to write. Remember this point. The only way you can specify the arguments are data type, argument name, comma, again data type followed by argument. And if you don't have any argument, if your function doesn't take anything, you can write void. So you have two options. If there are parameters, go for that in a specific manner. Otherwise, if there will be no parameter, you can go with void. I think you got the clarity about this point. That is what parameters are. If more than one parameter are there, that should be separated with comma, right? And each parameter should be preceded with the data type. Remember, only data type will do with separated by commas. Data type with variable name also you can write, but it is always recommended you should write the data type only without any variable name. That doesn't mean if you write the variable name you are going to get an error. No, you will not going to get an error. Remember that point. And the last one, obviously, the semicolon, right? In function declaration, semicolon is must. Semicolon is must. You can take a note of it. You can take a note of it. The note is the function requires semicolon. The function declaration should be terminated with a semicolon. We have already discussed this one. The function declaration should be terminated with semicolon. Remember this point. Remember this point because this is pretty vital, right? And one more note I want you to take. One more note I want you to take. Above all the discussion, what we have said, the function definition, each function should have a prototype and it should be defined. Every function's prototype should be defined. One case where we do not require the function prototype. What is that case? That is a special case. The case is if the function is defined before main function. Remember this point. Before main function, we do not require any prototype. Remember this point. Prototype. We do not require any prototype. Remember this point, right? So this is all about a prototype. This is all about a prototype. We'll talk about a prototype. A prototype has 4 sections. We have discussed about that. Return type, function name, type argument, and all. The most important part here you should not forget. Return type is basically for the compiler, not for the user. The compiler from here can understand you are going to create a function or you are going to call a function. Which function will return this type of data? It can take this type of argument. This is only for compiler's information, not any other. And this is not mandate. If you are defining the function before main function, this is purely optional. Otherwise, you have to define this, right? Okay. Now, let us go for one example. Suppose we have to declare a function prototype. Like I have a programming requirement. Can you please write a function which will calculate the factorial, which will calculate or the highest among 3 numbers, right? So this is my programming requirement, highest among 3 numbers. This is my programming requirement. Let us write a prototype for this. See, it can be written in 3, 4, 5, 6 different formats. We will discuss only one format here. Now, I want a function. Suppose I'll name the function name as highest among 3. Highest among 3. This is a valid identifier name, right? The first character is not a digit. It is a last character, and I have used all the characters from small letter A to Z and 0 to 9. Now, I want my function should say which one is highest, right? And how many variables I want to input? I have to input 3 variables. And the semicolon, as per the discussion, we need a semicolon here, right? This is what's called as function declaration, or you can call it as function prototype. Now, let us discuss what this one is. Here int means this particular function will return an integer value. And while we calling this function, we have to give how many values? 3 values. And these 3 values should have type int. These 3 values should have type int. In the last video, in maybe the last video of the function, we will find some interesting conclusion about the data type, about the argument type, whether the argument types will be equal with the calling type or it may be different. Don't worry, we have a very good session waiting ahead. Don't worry, we'll discuss that point. So I think this is the part where you can confirm what exactly a prototyping means, what prototyping is and what it can contain, right? Okay, so after prototyping, we should be carry out or carry forward into the second part of the discussion. The first part we have covered, that is declaration and prototype. What about the second part? The second part is function definition. The second part is function definition. One thing I have to make you clear, function prototype and function definition, they have interconnection between each other, right? Function definition's header, first line of the function definition should be same with the function prototype. What that does mean? It will be look like return type followed by function name, and type 1 argument. It will go on with comma separated variables followed by this. Remember, now here, once I have written the function prototype, make sure the return type should be same with the return type mentioned in the prototype. Number 1, if I am defining the same function. Number 2, the function name, obviously they should be same. Number 3, the number and order of arguments present in the prototype should be same with the number and order of arguments present in the function definition. These 3 things should be same, otherwise 100% pakka you will going to get an compiler error. Don't worry, in the conclusion part we have also very interesting facts waiting for you. If you'll run through all those sections, you will find lot of interesting facts and figures about this function calling and definition. Don't worry, but the rule, it is always recommended the return type should be same, the function name should be same, and the number and arguments of the number and order of arguments in the function prototype should be same with the number and order of the arguments in the definition. Only one thing is there, function declaration should be terminated with semicolon. Here we don't have a semicolon. This is the difference, right? And the second difference here, we may or may not include the variable name, doesn't matter, but here variable name is mandate. If there will be argument, variable name is mandate. In case it's a void type, we don't require any identifier or variable name. Make sure. So that is the difference between these two. Now, this particular line is called as header of the function. This particular line called as header of the function. So now onwards, I'll use header of the function. Now, header of the function should be same with the function declaration. That is the first point. Remember this one, right? In case any mismatch will be there, 100% pakka, you will going to get an error message, or the output will be completely different, that you might not expect it. We'll see to that, no problem. Second one, the statements present inside the curly braces are called as body of the function. Remember, here in the function declaration we don't have a function body, but here we have a body of the function. 100% we have a body of the function, and at some point of time your body of the function might contain a return statement. That purely depends what the return statement will contain. If your return type is integer, the return statement should contain a variable whose data type should be integer. Again, some conclusions are waiting for that, but for the time being, what we are saying, the return type and the variable present after return statement should be same. Otherwise, you will be definitely receive an error from your compiler. But that might not be the case if you are going for the conclusion. But this is recommended. The return type of a function definition, the return type of the declaration, and the data type of the variable or value in the return statement, all these three should be same. Remember this point. If these are void, you can write only return, no problem at all. But if you are write integer here, make sure into will be here. Make sure in return statement you are writing one int variable. So all these 3-4 points you need to understand before writing any function, right? This is what all about a function. Now the question is, what should this function, body function, contains? First one, it can contain some local variables. I hope you all know what exactly local variables are. Number two, it will contain the business logic. The word business logic, what I mean, the logic of the program or the logic of the function that purely dependent on your programming requirement. So here you can put your logic. Here you can write your codes so that the task for which you have creating the function will be carried out. Clear? And finally, the return statement. Before concluding the definition, I definitely have some words for return statement. We'll go through. So what it can contain? Local variable, it can contain business logic, and it can contain return statement, right? Business logic is purely dependent on the programmer's requirement. Programmer has to form this and has to write that. Now we'll talk about the return statement. Remember, return statement. First of all, as the first discussion I have covered. Second is the return data type of the return type variable should be same with the return type and same with the function declarations return type. That part we have covered. Remember, what return function will do, what it will do, whenever this particular statement is executed, immediately the control will turn off this particular function's execution and it will transfer the control to the called function. What that does mean? What that does mean? Suppose I am writing void main here. Forget about void main. No problem. Let me go with void main itself. I am writing void main here. In void main, I am writing I am calling a function called as power function. I hope you know this function, power a comma b, right? And here power function is defined. Now this is a function which is called this function. Now main function is called as a called function, a calling function. I am sorry, a calling function. I think that is not the case. The case is, let us understand one more time. There is a function called as main function. Inside main function, I am calling a function called as power function, power a comma b, or whatever the thing is. There is a function power defined somewhere. Suppose everything is in place. Function definition is correct, function declaration is fine, everything is fine. Now I am calling this function. When this particular statement will be executed, from this point onwards, directly the control goes to this particular function. Once all the lines of the code will be executed, or when the return statement is executed, immediately the control will be transformed from that particular one to this particular method. Now main method is calling this particular function, right? Now power function will return to the function where it is called. Where it is called? Main function. So main function is the caller function of power. It will call the power function, right? Now the power function will return to the called function if return statement is there. Remember, return statement always take you to the function from where it is called, right? And in a function, if you are writing any statement after return statement, remember, this particular statement is never going to execute it, because once return statement will be there, it will come out of the function and it will take you to the function where it is called. So this statement will never be executed. Make sure you understand everything about this one. There are two differences you got to know. One is the return statement, one is the exit statement. If you write a return statement, a function will be terminated. If you write an exit statement, the entire program will be terminated. There are two differences. If you write exit, let's say I'm writing exit 0, the program will be terminated. If I'm writing return only, function will be terminated. Make sure you know the difference between return and exit, or we may discuss that particular in some other sessions. Now, function definition, I hope you all clear about this point. I repeat, function definition should not be defined within another function. Suppose I am defining a function m1. Inside the function definition, I am trying to define one more function. This type of story is not there in any programming language. I am sorry, not in any programming language. Python is there. If Python is listening me, you'll say, hey boss, what you are saying, I have that facility with me. You can't say like that. Only Python is a function. JavaScript also, there are some scripting functions which are using the use the terminology called as nested function at the time of declaring defining function. But yes, we can have nested functions while calling, right? For that, let us understand what exactly calling is, then we'll wind up the session. In the next video, we'll come up with all the examples, all the rules and regulations that we have just studied. We'll discuss every bit with hands-on activities, right? But before coming to the session, to that video, make sure you've gone through all these rules and regulations, right? So last one is calling a function, right? While calling a function, the simple syntax is you have to write the function name followed by either variable or constant, right? Like this. If your function returns something, make sure you have received that one with a variable, and the variable type should be same with return type. Make sure you know this point. If your function returns int, make sure the data type of this result variable should be int. If your function returns float, similarly it should be float, right? You can ask me, sir, I am returning float, but by mistake I have taken integer here. We'll sheet out to all those cases in next video. Definitely we'll discuss, we'll postmortem each and every section of this function, don't worry. But for your understanding sake of thing, you make sure it is recommended the data type of this particular one should be same with this return type. Make sure you understand this point. If it is void, you don't require this. Function name is saved. Now, the number and order of argument, I repeat, the number and order of argument should be equal with the number and order of arguments here, or values here, right? These are called as actual parameter, and we have already said this is called as formal parameter. Now, the actual parameter and formal parameter should be same in order and number. Make sure you understand this point. What that does mean, if the first argument says integer, my first value should be an integer literal or an integer variable. If the second one says float, same will be there. So it will follow the rules and regulations of this, right? By mistake, you supplied any value which is either greater than that or less than the data type, the result, trust me, the result will be completely different. Please don't do that. It's highly recommended. You should follow all that rules and regulations. So I think we have covered almost all the sections of that, all the section of a function. Before coming to the next video, I'll definitely suggest all of you, please go through all the things that we have covered here. And some part I could not able to write, I have detected that one. You please keep the notes ready, so that in the next video we will go on full postmortem to all these areas, and we'll see some interesting conclusions here, right? So till that time, please take care of yourself, and thank you so much for watching me, or thank you so much for watching.